Representative Horn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was opposed to the ban on baiting when that issue came up. As Dan well knows, we sent letters to the Natural Resources Commission that asked them not to do what they were doing on behalf of the people of my district, and I think many other reps on this panel did the same thing. And it's just disturbing to me that that the people never had a voice in that. In a sense, we have appointed commissioners that unelected that were making this decision, and we created rules promulgated by DNR that would subject our people to to inquiry and to citations and to court cases where I think were acting in total innocence. And on anonymous tips, officers of the DNR will visit our homes and farms and families, and and in a sense harass people. They're asked by courts to to not visit until they have appointments. There's something that seems particularly wrong about this, and it seems to me that clarifying a piece of legislation or clarifying rules that have been promulgated makes all the sense in the world to this committee and to our legislature. And if in fact this puts the burden of proof on the back of the enforcement agency, I don't think I have a problem with that. If somebody's feeding birds and you think they're deer are congregating, the burden should be on the department to say that these people were in fact trying to gather deer. I'm pleased with the changes that are being made. I think the department really needs to take a look at how it does its enforcing, and it should be at the benefit. I think all of our rules at the benefit of the people. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. If you're not pleased with or happy with the wording that we currently have before us, is there wording that you can recommend that would be different?
Well, I think, we would like to have the opportunity to actually have a meeting with Representative Meadows to discuss the bill and discuss his point of view on the bill and discuss our point of view. I'm under the impression we didn't have the opportunity to do that because of schedules ahead of time before committee, but I think we would all benefit from that discussion, so we maybe have a better sense of where he wants to go with the bill and where we may be able to meet him along the way. Again, I think that, speaking to that point, the question about the bill, and maybe a little bit to the point that Representative Horn was raising, the policies that were adopted by the Natural Resources Commission come at the advice of leading experts on wildlife diseases. The plan that we implemented that called for this ban was a plan that had been peer-reviewed by those same experts in that field. And quite frankly, I think it is the expectation of the people of the state of Michigan that those of us who are entrusted with the management responsibility for our wildlife, that we do so in a manner that is consistent with what the leading thinking, the leading work, the leading science, and the leading research is telling us. And while I understand that may at times be uncomfortable, it does not undermine the credibility of that work, and it does not undermine the credibility of those conclusions. And I would go on to say that the work of our enforcement officers in duly enforcing a law, I have a hard time accepting that the due enforcement of a law that was passed by this legislature and enforcing a rule that was promulgated by the Natural Resources Commission, which carries the weight of law, does not constitute harassment. I think to suggest that our officers enforcing a law that they've been given to enforce and going out and doing that is harassment is unfortunate.
And Dan, I would agree with you. When the officers are out there and have to enforce a law that they may or may not agree with and or are trying to do what they're told to, I think it puts the officers in a bad position, in a difficult position to deal with the public. However, it certainly at this point appears that they've also been given orders from those that are not necessarily in the field that have to deal with individuals that haven't had to deal directly with individuals, and it's a little bit easier to do that from a desk than those that I have to go to the front door. And so I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
You know, oftentimes when a state police officer sees someone speeding down the road, he may give you a ticket, he may not. He can use judgment. I think, at least in this case, in a number of cases, judgment's not well served. And I don't want to get into the baiting thing because there's all kinds of indications that well, I won't get into that. As far as Representative Meadows not being introducing this he's introduced this legislation 3 weeks ago. I don't have any problems contacting him. He had someone come down to testify all the way from Gaylord. Didn't have any problem getting here. It's not a complicated bill. I think that the time would have been before this committee hearing that you should have contacted the representative and sat down with him on it. Seeing no other questions, thank you very much for coming in today.
Thank you.